Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Andrew, and I'm a co-founder here at SimpleStack. And today we're going to be talking about Airtable forms. This session is for you if you want to learn how to get information into your Airtable by people that do not have access to an Airtable account or to your Airtable base or interface. So if you're wondering how to get information into your Airtable, this session's for you, and we're going to jump right into it here. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. So we're in the data layer of the Airtable base, and initially when Airtable came out, they heavily leveraged this area called views, and one of the types of views you could create was a form. The best way to create a form now is actually going to be through the interface itself, which is going to be up here. And so I'm going to show you that way. This is a preferred method because it allows you to do more conditional visibility, and it, quite frankly, looks just quite a bit nicer. So in order to start creating a form, you're going to go to interfaces. Before I do that, I want to tell you a little bit about the scenario that we're going to play out here. We're going to keep it simple to start. Your use case may require more fields, and you may be looking to do something entirely different, but the principles of how to build a form are going to be the same exact thing, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to have a field called name, which is going to be the first field on this table. And this is going to be populated when someone enters their name into a field when they submit a form. The next one, and the use case for this is, imagine we want to be able to send out surveys and collect responses of how someone's service experience was with us as a business, okay? So the next field that we're going to have is how was your service experience? And then we're going to have some fields that are specific to the rating that they chose. So if they chose 3 stars, we're going to show them one field. If they chose 5 stars, we're going to show them a different field. Okay. Now you can imagine you may have various different fields that you would want to show for different reasons in your use case, and that's what we're going to cover. Okay. So starting to create this into a form, we're going to go ahead and jump into the interface itself. And when you do, click on Start Building. You'll see that there's an area here to build a form. That's what we're going to want to go to, and we're going to build it off of our submissions table, which we were just looking at earlier. We're going to go ahead and click on Create Form, and this brings us to the form builder. So all of those fields we just looked at here are our input fields on this form. Okay, so we've got the name, service experience, etc. We have the ability to add a cover image and a logo. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to add the SimpleStack logo here. Let's go ahead and find that. Okay, SimpleStack logo is incoming. Let's upload that. Excellent. And let's go ahead and leave it at that. I'm not going to add a cover image in this case. Okay. Now we want to give it a title. We don't want it to say new submissions. That's the name of our table. So maybe we would title this, how was your experience? Okay. And the way this is laid out, the left-hand side here is going to show us the different forms we're creating. We can actually collapse that by clicking on pages so that we can focus just on the form we're working on. And over here on the right, we have all of the form setting configuration. Okay, so I can change the title, and we're just going to go from top to bottom here. Okay. We're showing all of the visible fields. If we didn't want to show some of these as part of the form, maybe it's an internal field that we're using for tracking purposes or something else, and it's just not a part of the form, you could hide it from the form by clicking on the little eye on the right. In our case, we want all of these fields. We can remove the Airtable branding. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And you can also see who submitted a response if you toggle this on. This, however, does require that they have an Airtable account and are logged into that account. So this may be a good thing for you internally if you've got a bunch of other users of Airtable, but you work at a large company and they don't have access to your Airtable database. Then you could capture, without them having to tell you who they are, who is doing the submission. Okay. For ours, since we're dealing externally with clients, we don't want to make them log into Airtable, so I'm going to leave that toggled off. We can rename the submission button. I think submit is good, but maybe we want to make it submit review. Okay. We could decide to redirect to a URL. So maybe we want to redirect to the Simple Stack website. I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Okay. So once someone's finished doing the review, they will be redirected to the Simple Stack website. And then email responses, you can choose to email a response to base collaborators, so me or Brett, or you could leave this blank. I'm going to go ahead and leave it blank for now, but whenever someone submits a response, you would get an update if you've toggled it on. Okay, so that's it for our general form setup. Okay, we're not going to have a cover image. We've got now these 4 fields that we want to customize and maybe add a description here as well. So I'm going to add a description which says, let us know how we did. Leave us a review. Okay, and we can go ahead and give this little styling if we want, like that. Okay, so now with the form, time to talk through a few things. If this is your first time using an interface setup, this is going to be new information to you, but you'll be able to use this regardless of whether it's a form or not, because interfaces or ways of interacting with the data through these types of pages interact and react in the same way. Okay, so you'll see that when I hover over this, I get a blue highlight around all of the fields. This is what's called a grouping. And a grouping can be clicked on, and the actions that you have for that grouping, as far as configuration, will be on the right-hand side here. So you'll see that we have potentially we could give this grouping a title, okay? And you can decide whether or not you're going to show that title. In our case, we're not going to show it. We could also show a description if we wanted. We're not going to do that, but we would like to show a little bit of a background color. So I'm going to go ahead and toggle that on. That'll help break it up for the eye a little bit and make it a little more form-like. And then we can decide where the field labels are going to be. So they can be on top or the side, depending on what we think looks best. I'm going to go with top in this case, but that may and probably is just a personal preference. And then finally, you'll see that this entire group can have visibility. So visibility allows us to say when we would want to show this group, okay? And so this isn't going to apply for our build on the group level today, but it may for a couple of these individual fields, right? Based on what someone selects as far as their rating of the experience, okay? So that's how you can configure a group. You can add fields to a group when you hover. There's a little blue plus. If you have more fields that you want to add, you just click on that and it'll bring up your fields. It'll add it in line. You can also add an entirely new group, which will give you another section that you can start to work in, okay? But we're doing a pretty simple form here. And so let's get in and configure the fields here. So we're going to say this is going to be called full name. Okay, and the helper text is please enter your full name. Okay, and this is a field they can come and type in. If we wanted to give it a default value, we could do that. We can also give it a character limit, which might be wise depending on the type of information you're asking for. And we can make it a required field. So in this case, it is required. Okay. Next is, how was our service experience? Nothing really to customize here, except we may want to give it a default value. And in that case, we could assume that we're giving 5-star service and let someone know that, that we either didn't achieve that or we did by them adjusting it. I like to keep it blank though to start. So that's what we're going to do. Maybe we'll give some helper text here that is overall review of your experience. Okay. And then what we want to do is, if they choose 3 stars, we want to show them this field that asks what we can do better. And if they choose 5 stars, we want them to tell us more about their 5-star experience. Okay. So that's where this conditional visibility is going to come in. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So this first one, for you chose 3 stars, what can we do better, is going to be bringing in here and adding a condition on the field. So we're clicking on the field and pulling up this filter, and we want to choose where our experience was equaling 3 stars. Okay. So that is when this is going to show up. Okay. And let's do the same thing for the 5-star experience. We're going to choose the condition where it equals 5 stars. It's going to show this. Okay. Now, the final thing to do once you've got your form all set up and you're ready to go is to publish your form. Now, there are definitely some options that you need to consider when it comes to who can access the form. Anyone on the web is good for a customer use case. If it was an internal form, just a simple stack, for instance, I would probably choose just anyone at simple stack or at a specific domain. You can also require a password or embed it into your website. At any rate, once you've decided what the permissions are for your form, you can copy that link. And in this case, anyone visiting this link from the internet for what I've created can access the form. So they can enter their name here. And then based on what they select on the star rating here, you'll see that we will show a different field. So if they chose 3 stars, it's going to ask them this. If they choose 5 stars, it's going to ask them this. Now, of course, just based on how we've built this form, that means it doesn't ask anything for 1, 2, or 4 stars. And that's okay, because you would just continue to build this out in a way that makes the most sense for your use case. But hopefully this helps to illustrate the principles of how those conditional fields work. And I had a great experience. Thanks for changing the way we work through using Airtable efficiently. Efficiently is always one of those words I feel like I'm misspelling, but I think I nailed it that time. So again, you'll decide which of these need to be required and how you're going to show these. This is a pretty slick looking interface now that people can visit to submit reviews. Again, I can even embed it in my website, as we saw. And when we click on submit review, you'll see that we're redirecting to simplestack.com, just like that. So that's a pretty nice flow. Now, additionally, into the system. Okay, so if we go back to Airtable here, to our forms demo, and we go into the data layer, you'll see that we have a submission from Andrew with this 5-star experience, and we've got the review here. Okay, so this is for inputting information into Airtable, collecting that through a form. Now, one of the questions I get a lot is, how do I update existing information? And while you can't do that through a native Airtable form, there are a lot of great form tools, fillout.com being one of them, that allow you to update records in Airtable via form. So we're going to be looking at that during a session here in a few weeks. And I hope that overall this was a quick primer for how to get started in Airtable Forms. One of the things I would recommend is to really just get in there and start using it. And it will start to make sense as you go. One additional thing before I leave you is that with forms, I think it's important to not try to make everything required and to really just collect and require information for the things you absolutely need so that you have a sort of a good ratio of people that actually submit the form. You know, I've worked with a lot of clients where we spend a lot of time trying to figure out the perfect form, and the customers or whoever it is that is filling that form out lets you know really quickly what's useful for them and what they're willing to, from a time perspective, spend time filling in. Okay, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed learning about how to use forms in Airtable, and I will see you in the next session.